Uh, I have read a lot of comments from other people. Not my comments. I go to videos and I look at the comment section of other videos, and some people watch a video on plastic on storage food and food storage, and they complain about bugs and moths and larvas in their in their food that's been stored, like flour and stuff like that. Some people store flour and they complain about having larvas and insect larvas, bugs and insects of all kind inside their stored food. Well, let me tell you something, okay? I use for that problem that we're talking about, storing food and insects and everything and moths and larvas and all that. I use plastic containers for my cereals and for my flours and for my sugars and stuff like that. So this providing that the bugs and insects are not inside of the box of cereal when you from the store. Okay, if there's no if the stores don't have any larvas or bugs already inside them from the store, I know the boxes, the newly bought boxes. I usually put the cereal from the cereal box into these old juice containers, plastic, and then I'll wash the old juice containers. This is a Crane Apple, this is Hawaiian Punch, and wash them, dry them, air dry them, and I put cereal, and then I tighten it with the lid right here. The lid screws in. The lid kind of screws. The lids that screw on, you tighten and loosen by screwing them on. You see that they make the best containers to keep cereals and flours and sugar where bugs cannot get into them. Yeah. Now, most people say, oh, that's good for store food if you have a storage room, but how about if you have it in the kitchen counter or your closet or in not closet, in your cabinets, kitchen cabinets? What then? I mean, these are okay for storage, but they're not too aesthetic when it comes to looking at the bottles. I mean, you want the bottles well, it's good for storage, you're right. So I use a glass bottle. I grab a glass jar, okay? See this glass jar? It screws on. Now, if you can see here, this is good for storage, but not for the kitchen counter, because the way they look, it's not as attractive as this one here. This one here screws on, has a screw on top, This is an old candy jar that we bought candy a long time ago, and when we finished it, I washed it, and I washed the bottle, the lid. I dried it, air dried it, and we put Crunch Berries, Captain Crunch Berries into the glass. You see that, how beautiful it looks? Look how beautiful it looks. It looks nice, right? For the glass. See, now I could have put it in one of these plastics bottles, but it won't look as nice on the counter if I didn't use glass. Now, this has a screw on top. Let me see if I can open this up. It screws on. See? See the plastic? You see the threads? And the bugs cannot get into it. They have to be careful with some lids. Some lids, when they screw on, they have this part here, the lower part, sticking out with some space. And although the bugs don't go inside the cereal, they can go inside the space underneath the lid. Some of them. As you can see, right here, the lid is tight. See, the lid is tight. Right here, the lid is tight right here. That the bugs cannot get into it. But in some jars, they have lids that even though you tighten the lid, you have a space here that's open up and the bugs can get in there. Even though they cannot get into the cereal, when you go to get cereal or flour or pour some sugar or whatever, pour from your sugar from a jar, you sometimes get the lid. If you don't screw it and lift the lid up, you'll see like little bugs inside, but not inside the jar or the food that you're storing, but inside the lid right here, because the lid is a little wide, has a space here. You ever seen them? the jars, they have a little space here that's opening up in the bottom. Even though you're screwing the lid, the bugs cannot get inside, but they can get inside the lid space here. So you have to be careful too, okay? So when you unloosen the lid, make sure that it's not the kind of lid that has a space. This lid here, the juice, the Hawaiian Punch juice and the cran apple juice that I used for cereal, Honey Nut cereal, Cheerio here, and Kellogg's Frosted Flakes here, has no space over here in the bottom. So the bugs can't get to it at all. No hair, no morphs, no larvas. But here, they cannot get here too. They cannot get here too because it's tight. But in some jars, the lids here has space. Even though you screw it tight, you have to be careful. That if you feel like there's a little space here, you will have bugs there. You have to wash the lid. But it's not inside the cereal, because from here to here is tight. But underneath here, you get the bugs. So when you pour cereal or pour flour or sugar, you gotta be careful when you unloosen the lid. Let me see if I can unloosen the lid again. To pour cereal or flour, look and see if over here you don't see any bugs or bug eggs or larvae, whatever over here. Okay, but the cereal is tightly protected right here. It's protected. Okay, but down here, if you're not careful, right here where the lid meets the jar, let me see if I can show it to you. Right here, if there's any space, well, some jars have a wide space there, you'll find bugs. Okay, just to let you know. Always look. So even though you're storing food nicely, look at the spaces right here. This is good. This is good. This one here is good. This is plastic. This is good. Let me see if I can show you here. This is good, but let me see if I can show you the space. It has a little space. You see that little space right there? Let me see if I can show it to you. Let me see if I can show it. This has a little space. You see it? That little space right there? Right here. Okay? So even though the bugs do not get inside the jar or into the food, they will get into this space. Oh, the label came off. I gotta put the label back on. It came off. You see? Let me see if I can put this in. If I can lean this against something. Show you. Yeah, lean it. There you go. See right here? The bugs will get in this space here. So when you, even though the food is protected, if you take off this lid, unscrew the lid, and you will look inside, you may see in time that the lid in this area here may have bugs and bug eggs if you're not careful. But not inside of food. That's nice and protected. See? Everything here is nice and protected. It's protected over here. But down here, it's not protected. You see bug eggs because of the lid. So when you're ever going to have a glass jar or a plastic jar or plastic bottles or anything that screws on a lid, which is good to have, always look and check before you pour your cereal or your flour or your sugar into another container or if you're going to put your cereal into a bowl. First, look at the bottom edges, inner edges of your lid, because even though there's no bugs inside your cereal, there may be some bugs or eggs around the edges, inner edges of the containers. Right in this area here. See here? Right here. Right here. I have one over here. Let me see. That has a space. And this one over here. Let me see. Yeah, these have spaces right here. They have spaces right in here. Now, one time, this is flour and this is sugar. Now, this is for the kitchen counter. It's not my storage room. It's my kitchen counter. I put flour and sugar in these containers, glass containers, and these are screw on. And there's no bugs inside the eggs, inside the flour, nor the sugar. But I once I was making some pancakes, and I unscrewed the lid. Although there's no bugs inside the flour, nothing at all. Inside these edges, when I lift the lid, inside the edge here, I saw bugs. and eggs. But it did not get into the flour. It did not get into the flour, nor did it get into the sugar. It didn't, because it was nice and contained. But when you go to use it, always look in the edges of the lid. Okay, always. Okay, all because you have bugs there, it doesn't mean that you have them inside your cereal or your flour or your food. It doesn't mean that at all. Just be careful. Okay, to check. All you gotta do is wash out real good the lid. Wash out real good. Okay. Okay, now if you want to get a new lid, another lid, you can, if you can find one, or put it in another container. But the flour, the sugar are protected, but the inner edges of the lid is not. And if you're not careful, they may one day, if they inside the lid, that one day they'll find a way to penetrate the threads and probably go inside to the food. That's why I always check the inside lid. Even though the lids are protected. For example, you have this little space here, but here you don't have no space. You see here? You see here? It has no space. Now, you see here? Between the lid and this plastic ring, right here? You see that? This plastic ring, you may find bugs there because you have a little space there. But I haven't found it yet. But you may have it here. So, but the cereal is protected. The flour and the sugar is protected, but this between the ring and the edge of this lid, you might find it into there. Okay? That makes sense to you? And you may not see it. Now, if there are any kind of insects in between these rings and they're alive, be careful, because when you go to lift the lid and you walk away, or you leave the lid off for a while, then the insect that's in here, not inside here, but in here, may crawl inside here without you looking. That makes sense to you? So you may not have any bugs down here where the food is, but you may have it inside here. Okay, not here, but here in between, inside this ring. In between this ring, the space, you may have eggs and everything. So you go to unscrew your lid and pour some cereal, for example. You pour some cereal, and then all of a sudden you walk away with the lid off, and then the bug won't get inside. Or they'll make more lay bug eggs or whatever, larvae, whatever, and then you get an infestation here. Okay, always be careful. This is why you always got to check when you pour your cereal or you store your food. Always look inside. Always look inside the inner ring, right here. Okay. Another problem too with these lids, if they're turning black all the time and you wash them all the time, you have to get a new lid or a whole new bottle. But I try to get a new lid. This is why I always store away lids. I got a plastic bag in my room, and a drawer in my room, in my bedroom, with lids that I wash and dry from other bottles. You know, the bottles you throw away. So if I need a lid in the future, I go upstairs to my room, open my drawer, and I get the plastic bag full of lids, and I just put them in the bottles. But be careful, okay? So be careful with the edges. See here, be careful with these edges here when you go to pour cereal or you need a storage room. This is where they sneak in this area here, okay? And watch out for the black coloration. That's bacteria growing inside, or mold. The black coloration. Also, check these jars. See look how beautiful it looks. See how beautiful it looks? That's Crunchberry. That's why I put this one on top of the jar, on top of my kitchen counter, and this one in the storage room. Storage room, kitchen counter, because the jar looks beautiful. Now, like I told you, we can watch out for this here, the lid. Some screw-on lid may look sealed, but the bottom here will have the bugs, okay? And down here, in between here, we'll have the bugs. See here? You will have bugs right here. See this area here? That will have bugs if you're not careful. So check, okay? So if you're going to unscrew this cereal, the Honey Nut cereal, and you're going to pour it, and you walk away with the lid off, don't be surprised if they go from here into your bottle, okay? So whenever you go and pick some cereal up, these bottles are terrific for keeping out bugs. But they could also have bugs here, not inside the cereal or the flour or in the sugar, but in here. Okay? Now, sometimes you're wondering why you find bugs inside your stored food, because they come that way in the store. The store has eggs that hatches. Everybody knows that. That's why if you buy imported food, you may get sick, catch a disease. You may get bit by an insect. Because when food is imported from a different country, sometimes it has eggs in them. So is tea bags. So if you're storing away tea bags or tea, they may have eggs that may hatch or larvae. You never know. I'm just saying, you got to be careful. Now, what do you do? Well, if they're already there and you store them in a bottle, or you're in trouble. However, sometimes you can. What may work? You can, if you notice, if you know that there may or may not be insects in your food before you store them in these jars or bottles, you can freeze dry them for a few days, and then store them in a bottle, or you can use oxygen absorber and put them inside your cereal or flour. Not into your sugar. I wouldn't take a chance with that, because the sugar will get hard, like a rock, if you're not careful, in some cases. It depends on how long you're going to have the oxygen absorber in the sugar. But if you put oxygen absorber and you're going to store your cereal or your flour away for a long time, that will kill the larvae from hatching, or it will take away the oxygen to make them thrive. And the insects that are inside or alive will be dead, will die. Okay? Of course, you're not going to eat this. You're not going to eat the cereal or take the flour afterwards, but you don't want to eat it when it's alive too, right? Once you see that they're there. But you don't want that, right? You don't want that at all. Just have a nice secure bottle like this that screws on. See the threads? That will protect you, the bugs, from getting into your cereal. Okay? It'll protect your bugs from getting into the cereal. But see how I turn this? You see how I turn it right here? Watch. You see this ring right here? It has a space that bugs can harvest the eggs or a larva. And if you tighten this here, you will not get any bugs inside the cereal or inside the lid, but you'll get it inside this area here, where the ring is. So when you walk away with the lid unshut or unscrewed or off, the lid off, they'll crawl into it. Here too, and here too, and inside here too. They'll hatch the eggs there. So before you pour your cereal or your flour, even though you get nothing inside your bottle or in your food, you will have them inside here, in this area here. Here, like I told you, this is okay. You won't get no bugs from this, unless the bugs came in a box already from the store, and you don't know that until you do it, until you put it inside. But here, you gotta be careful, okay? This is when there's no thread and no screw. It's an area here. I already showed you before, right? With the sugar and flour, that they'll harvest the eggs there. It doesn't mean they get inside the jar. It means you have to clean before you pour your cereal or your flour, or you bake making pancakes, or you want a cup of sugar, and you want to screw the lid. Always look inside the inner edges of the cover, so you can wash it off if they're there. Okay, and dry it very well. That's all it means. You have to watch out for these little edges there. So be careful, okay? I'm just telling you about my experience. Okay, trial and error. Trial and error. Test and retest. That's how I do, okay? All right, I want to let you go now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.